What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Bayside Fabrication YouTube channel. Well, I'm pretty fired up about today because this is going back in here. So it's been about, I don't know, 2.5 weeks maybe since I blew up the car. And I got our JDM motor here all buttoned up. All the revisions I wanted to make to it are done. And it's like the version 2.0, I guess you would say. It's everything I learned from the first one, and we just took those things and tried to improve on them with this motor. Funny thing is too, this motor is $900, and as you guys saw, it's super low miles, everything's really clean, and I was actually just able to sell my blown up motor today for $250. So if you, I don't know how you want to do the math, but if you think about it, the original motor I bought that blew up was 400 bucks, so you know, I bought that for $150, which in this case paid for pretty much all the accessories that I still had to use on this motor: alternator, power steering, starter motor, air conditioning, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, however you want to do the mental gymnastics to get to it, I didn't really eat that much of a loss at the end of the day other than time. But it was a learning experience, and I have a really good feeling that this is going to be a better setup here. So I'm pretty fired up right now. I've actually gone in and been into the engine bay and just started cleaning things up a little bit. I wanted to tidy up some coolant lines and some plumbing things that I had going on. My original setup, you know, I was doing a lot of it while the motor's in the car, and it's really difficult when this is in here to really pretty much work on anything. It's other than a few items, man, if you have to get up underneath the intake manifold and stuff, like it's tricky, and there's no real easy way about it. So it's a tight package back there. But with all that being said, we are simply just gonna get this off the engine stand, bolt it to the transaxle, bolt the adapter plate, flywheel, blah, 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 and simply just throw it back in the car, wire it up, and we already have a map for it. And we should be ready to rock and roll. Luke is, he's actually on he does government contracting work as well. So he's on deployment right now, but it's just brief. So he should be back in like probably a week and a half at this point. So with that being said, like I got still a bunch to do. I just really want to just get the car running, driving, just be able to cruise around, not even hot rodding the thing. Just drive it like a normal person and just enjoy the car for a little bit. And I also want to get the air conditioning working. That's huge right now. It's the middle of summer in Florida, which sucks for that. So I want to get the AC working. I want to get the dash mounted. You know, I just want to get it a little more to square one. And then we can worry about, you know, getting the power down after that. But enough rambling. Let's get this thing back in the car and get it fired up, shall we? Well, guys, second time is definitely a little bit easier. One thing I learned the first time is the flywheel and ring gear has to go on before the adapter plate. You can see this little groove cut out here. So in this situation, the adapter plate goes on after that, and it actually encloses the ring gear right inside this lip here. I didn't know that the first time because I was all excited, and I installed the adapter plate just because that's what you do. And then, yeah, I had to take it all apart. So anyways, one thing I did want to address that was an issue, and I'm actually glad all this happened because this could have compounded and multiplied into be a real big issue actually down the road. But see all these bolts here? Now, this whole unit came completely assembled, and I didn't even go through and loosen these and re-tighten them or anything, but all these bolts loosened up here. So they probably were not tight when I got it. So if you get one of these adapter plates, make sure you take all these bolts and torque them down, and you know, make sure that they're where they're supposed to be. Because let's say the engine didn't blow up and I kept on hot rodding it, this whole plate was actually loose, and this is the input shaft of the transaxle. So that means ultimately right here, our transaxle could have been completely unsupported other than the clutch, and God knows what could have happened. I mean, I could have blown out the whole transaxle at that point. So honestly, this might be one of those blessings in disguises, because this actually is kind of a really big deal. I mean, you gotta think how fast this is spinning when the whole engine is spinning, and for this to become randomly unsupported and just start flopping around and getting wild could lead to a major catastrophe, not only to the motor, but especially to the Transaxle. And I mean, who cares about K24s? I've proven they're a dime a dozen. These, on the other hand, are not cheap. This alone, as is probably $2,500. So, I mean, like I said, these are not the strongest, most bulletproof things on the M96 naturally aspirated versions, but like, you know, they're Porsche transmissions. So, enough said. Look what we have here. Transaxle's all bolted up, motors all wired, plugged in, and ready to rock and roll, ready to install. But there's one last thing I want to do before I pop this sucker in, and that is to just build a little simple heat shield here to keep some of the heat from radiating up into this area from the exhaust. Now, some of you recall before, I put my hand on this part of the car, right on this body panel here, when I had the engine lid on and the bumper on and all the bodywork on, and I could barely keep my hand on it. It was so hot. So that means it was probably over 200 degrees. I didn't temp it, but it was very, very hot. And I'm afraid of damaging paint almost at that point. So I know there's plenty of ducting I can do. I can get fans in here. I mean, there's a ton I can do, but a simple shroud will definitely help in any event. So what I have done is taken this piece of 24 gauge stainless steel. I made a quick little template out of cardboard. And my thought is to just have something kind of like this, just to shroud off all of that. It also works well because my boost controller mounts right behind it. So my boost controller solenoid will be shrouded. And then on the top here, I'm probably gonna have a part coming horizontally off of this. And we can add a little bit of air gap here and shrouding between the inside panel here. Now I'm not super worried about the inside panel getting too hot, because the way I'm gonna do it on the interior is essentially have like, geez, I'm probably gonna put like 3 or 4 inches, no, not 4, probably 2 or 3 inches of sound deadening, insulation, fiberglass, whatever it's gonna be on top of this engine, and really just essentially make a flat panel type thing over this engine area. That is our heat shield up on there. And we're gonna throw the motor in now. So what I do is I just rib nutted some M6 bolts in there, and that's how it bolts on there. Whoop, there it is. So it's like 1 in the morning. I'm gonna call it quits tonight and get this motor jacked up and bolted in tomorrow. Got it almost down to a science now. So our shroud is looking great in there. We're going to obviously just get the motor up, and it does look like it has to tilt some more. And now we get our time to get our motor mount in, and our coolant expansion fill tank there has to go in at this point. I realized that it does not fit past this area here bolted in. So that's really the only thing you have to remove to get the whole transaxle assembly up and back in. So we pretty much have everything buttoned up here, with the exception of bleeding the cooling system. We have to hook up the computer on the inside, which is just like 3 or 4 wires. And I have to hook up my boost controller. Really, it's ready to fire. Other than that, we have our intercooler we still have to install. And with that, we are adding our air intake temperature sensor into the charge pipe instead of having it in the manifold, because I guess the manifold gets pretty heat soaked, and it's really not an accurate representation of the intake air temperature. You want it a little more in line on the charge pipe. So we're just doing that, and in order to do that, I'm going to just make a bung out of some aluminum here. Believe it or not, I always order my bungs because they're cheap. They're like $8. But I can't see one until like next week. So I ordered a tap and die, which is gonna be here today. And Yeah, that should do the trick. Just making a bung here for the intake air temperature sensor. I just have a piece of, looks like 3/4 inch aluminum. Got my drill bit, and I got my 1/4 inch NPT tap. And we're gonna knock this out super quick. Show you guys how easy this is. Oh, there we go. Doesn't get easier than that. You can thread in a little more. I just gotta weld it on, and then if I have to tap a little more, I can, but we'll start off with that. As long as we have that probe inside the intake, we are looking good. It can go just a little bit more. Probably just go to the edge right here. So we'll shoot for that and see how it looks once installed. Now is the moment of truth here. We're gonna fire the car up on the new motor. We got Luke on the phone doing a, what do you call it? I don't know. He can control my computer. So he's got eyes on it from a remote location right now, and we're gonna give it a go. You ready, buddy?
Yeah, let's do it, bud.
All right, here goes nothing. Let this sucker prime up. All right, firing. Little puff of smoke. That's to be expected, and it just stalled, so. Hey Luke, you hear that?
I cannot hear it.
It runs. Blew out just a puff of smoke from obviously sitting and stuff. So, all right, we got 63 pounds of oil pressure, 60 pounds. Sounds fantastic. No ticks or knocks or anything crazy. It sounds smooth as can be. All right, dude, so I guess I'll just have to bleed the system at this point, and we can go from there.
That sounds good, man. I've been fired up a lot.
Yeah, me too. No, you never know, dude. Crazy things can happen. I could have accidentally pulled a wire out or something, you know, somewhere. And I'm just gonna kill it.
Go for it.
All right, dude.
What RPM were we at?
You know what? I didn't even notice. I mean, it sounded like 1,000, right about there. Maybe less.
1,000?
Maybe less. Honestly, I didn't even notice. I didn't take note, so I'll have to check that out. But
all right. Well, could you do me one more favor?
yeah.
Could you go ahead and fire it up for me one more time, please?
Yeah.
And tell me what the ignition angle's at.
Well, guys, you heard it first. New motor, purrs like a kitten. Honestly, I had no like reservations about it. I knew it was gonna be fine, pretty much. I mean, there's always that little bit of unknown, but man, this thing sounds so good, so smooth. So what we're gonna do now is just go through the process of getting the coolant system bled out again, and we'll make sure this thing holds temperature, and then we'll just putt around the block with it and take it easy on it. And we're just gonna run a few data logs here and make sure the oil pressure's not doing anything crazy at higher RPMs and stuff. And I'm not really gonna like rip on it. I'm just gonna take it nice and easy with it, see how things go, and pretty much just drive the thing around a little bit. We do have some more things to do. I really, you know, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but I really want to get the AC working. I mean, it's, you know, we're in Florida in the middle of summer, so it's hot, and you know, just driving around, and like I said, I just want to put some miles on this thing and get it, you know, kind of well sorted before we really smack some boost at this thing. So anyways, that's what I'm going to be able to focus on. Everything's looking good. I thought I had an oil leak from the turbo drain, but I was mistaken. It was actually just condensation leaking through the V-band joint of the exhaust. So no big deal there. Everything looks good. No major leaks or anything that I can notice. And we're looks like we're ready to party, boys. So I appreciate y'all watching, and stay tuned for the next one, because we're just going to start ripping this thing, round 2. I know you've heard it before, but I promise this time it's going to be better. Hope so. See you guys.